Welcome to the Acrosoft Training Video Library and our Security Module training. We recommend that before you watch this training that you should already be comfortable working in the blue administrative interface or that you've already taken our Freedom Fundamentals 1 training. One of the reasons that you probably chose Acrosoft Freedom as your web software is because you liked the idea of being able to easily edit and manage your own site without needing to make a request for a basic change. Through the blue interface, you can add your own menu items, edit your Contact Us form, create new calendar events, list new job openings, and more. When you think about giving others in your organization access to the blue interface, you may worry about having too many hands in the pot or jeopardizing the site consistency or content. The security module is a powerful module that helps to alleviate these concerns and ensure the security of all your site content. For example, you may want to give your events coordinator access to the events module and your human resources administrator access to your jobs module. Maybe only you or your primary website administrator will need access to the menus module. With the security module, you can add, edit, and delete users of the blue interface and customize their access. In this training, we'll add a new group with a new user and customize access to specific modules, categories, and menus on the blue interface. By the end of the training, you'll know how to add new users to work in the blue interface. Now, when we talk about users, we're talking about individuals who have a user ID and password to log in to their blue interface. Access is how you set up restrictions to parts of the interface, and groups is how you identify which users or groups of users have which access. So let's look at the module on the blue interface. If you do not see the security module when you log into the blue interface, or you don't see the access tab on the security module, then you do not have rights to change the access levels of user groups. You would need to contact your system administrator to set the appropriate access levels. The first tab that you see here is Users. However, if you click to Add a New User, you'll see that Groups is one of the required fields, so before you create a user, you need to create the group that a user will belong to. To create a group, select the Groups tab, and here you can see I have two existing groups. The first is Admin, and every site has an admin group, and this group cannot be deleted, and if you try, you'll receive an error message. The admin group has access to the entire blue administrative interface, and if you create a new user in the admin group, you're giving them full administrative access to blue. I also have a marketing department group set up here, and you can add, edit, and delete groups from this tab. You can also filter for active groups, and you can sort your groups by group, description, or active columns. To add a new group, click on Add a New Group, and in the group name field, enter a name for the new group. We'll call this one Human Resources Department. And group names are case specific. The description field is optional if you want to enter in a brief description of the group. And then View Credit Card Information is for use with the Commerce and Forms modules. The default, even if you don't use these modules, is to keep it set to No View Last 4 Digits Only. And then lastly, if you want the group to be active so you can add, edit, and delete users, select the Yes option from the Active drop-down list. If you want to activate the group at a later time, select No, but keep in mind that if a group is not active, all users in that group will be inactive as well. You can activate and inactivate an entire group of users at one time here, or you can activate and inactivate individual users of a group through the Users tab. Then we'll click Add to add the new group. And you can see that the new group has been added to the Groups tab. And now you can begin adding users to this group. On the Users tab, you can see I currently have two users, John Smith, who is part of the marketing department, and Administrator 1, which is the login I used. You can see here the last time each user logged in, and how many times they've logged in. And as your user list becomes longer, you can filter by active status or by groups. And you can also do a search for a user as well. To add a new user, select Add a New User. And in the User ID field, enter the user ID that the user will enter to log in to the Blue interface. We'll enter mstock. And then in the password field, we'll enter a password. And you'll notice that the password appears as bullets when you enter it in this field, and this is to prevent others from reading it. We'll review some strategies for creating strong passwords in just a few minutes. Then we'll re-enter our password. And this ensures that you have entered it correctly. And then in the email field, we'll enter the email address of the user. In the description field, enter a brief description of the user, and typically this is just the user's name. So we'll enter Matthew Stock. And although this field is optional, it may appear in modules that log access to certain features or information, such as the user ID name for postings done through the blog module. And then from the group drop-down list, select the group you want to add the user to. We'll add Matthew to the Human Resources Department. And the language that you select here is the default language that the user's site would be in. This does not change the language on the white interface, only on this user's blue interface. And this user can change their language in the home module under their user login if they wish as well. If you want the user to be able to log into the blue interface and update the website, select Active Yes. And only active users can log into the blue interface. And you want to remember that the activation status of a group is separate than the activation status of a user. For example, if your user is set to be active but their group is not active, they won't have access to the blue interface. And then we can select Apply or Save. And you can see at the top of the screen, I received the error message, Bad Password. And that's because I used the password mstock, the same as my user ID, and the system has some guidelines for passwords, and one of them is that they cannot be too similar to the user ID. Also, you'll notice that when I typed in the password, there was a password indicator to let me know if the password was weak, good, very good, or excellent. And if you remember, when I typed mine in, it said it was weak. So let's just change the password to something else. And even though my password indicator still says the password is weak, it should be strong enough to allow me to save. So we'll go ahead and do that. And it let me save. And now that we've created the user and assigned him to a group, it's time to set up the access levels for the group. So to do that, we'll select the Access Level tab. And your groups appear here in the list with their description and active status. You specify access levels on a group basis so that each user in the group has the same access levels. If you need to set unique access levels for a single user, you would need to create a new user group, set the access levels for that group, and then only add that one user to the group. On this tab, you again have your filter. And then under Action, we can select Edit to begin editing the group's access options. So we'll edit our Human Resources group. And the first time that you edit a group, at the top you'll see New Group, Resetting Access Values to Default. And here you have 3 subtabs, Modules, Categories, and Menus, allowing you to customize access within each of these areas of the system. So we'll start with Modules. Here you can see on the far left a list of the module names. The second column is a checkoff box for full access to all visible blue interfacing components of the module listed. And full access will allow users in this group to have access to all the tabs in the module so they can view, add, edit, and delete features of the website. Then you see a list of the specific tabs within each module. And to the right of that list, you see the options for checking off Add, View, Edit, or Delete permissions. If you do not give a group full access, you can give them selected access to each tab within a module using these checkboxes. And you also have the option not to give a group access to a module at all. So this is our human resources group, so let's go through the modules one at a time to give this group appropriate access. The group does not need access to the configuration module, which is used for specifying different site-wide configurations, so I'm not going to check anything there. I am going to give this group full access to email marketing, and I'll restrict this access to the applicants category in just a minute through the category tab. They'll also need access to the events module so they can add job fair events or new hire orientations. So I'll give them full access, and again, I'll limit their access through the categories tab in just a minute. They'll need access to FAQs as well, so they can edit the human resource FAQ page. And again, I'll limit their access to the categories tab for this one. The Human Resources group will need to be able to add files to the file manager. So I'll give them access to view, edit, and add, but not to delete. In this case, they'd have to make a request to delete a file. In Forms, I need to give them access to view and edit submissions, view, edit, and add web forms, and view, edit, and add to the database. On their home panel, I also want this user to have access to change their own password, so I'll allow them to view the home panel and view the change password screen. They definitely need full access to the jobs module. And this group will not currently need membership, menus, news, newsfeed, reports, security, or syndication. But I do want to give this group access to view web pages without access at all to the categories in the web pages module. If a user does not have access to a tab in a module, such as the category tab, then the tab will not appear at all when they are logged in. Remember to then select Apply or Save to save the module access selections. And after you select Apply, notice that all the visible items for this group are now in blue for quick identification. So now I can move to the Categories subtab. The default for categories is to allow user access to all categories, so it really is important for you to check this tab. Under email marketing, I just want to allow access to applicants and staff. You'll remember that I gave them full access in the email marketing module, but now I've restricted that access to specific categories. So I'm going to unselect all categories and select applicants and staff. Under events, I'll give them access to meetings, socials, and trainings. Under FAQ, I'll give them access to human resources. Under jobs, I'll keep it set to all categories. And this group does not have access to membership or news, so I'll remove the check mark next to all categories. That way, if I later add membership or news to their accessible features, I'll need to come back here to identify categories. And then under web pages, we can keep this one set to all categories because I use the modules subtab to limit their access here to only being able to view in this module. So even if I gave them full access to the categories, they're still limited because all they can do to the actual pages on the site is view them. Remember to then select Apply or Save to save the category access selections. And again, the accessible category items will change to blue. And lastly, you can specify access by menus and even by submenus. This particular group does not have access to the menus module, so they don't need access to any of the menus. So we'll uncheck all of them. Again, by unchecking them, I'm making sure that if I do later add the menus module to their access, I would also need to come in here to specify which parts of the menu they have access to. So I'm creating even further security here. and then select Apply or Save to save the menu access selections. And now if I log out and log back in as Matthew, and accept our license agreement, any user you now add to the Human Resources group will have this same blue interface setup, and they only have access to the modules identified in the Access tab, which you see on the left-hand side of your screen here. Under Home, Matthew can change his password himself if he would like to using the Change Password tab. And this is something you should recommend all of your users do the first time they log in because it creates another level of password security. If one of your users forgets their password after they change it, you can easily reset their password by going back under their username in the security module and entering in the new password. You do not need to know their current password in order to reset it. Under Web Pages, Matthew only has the Web Pages tab, but not the Categories tab, and he does not have an action column here because he's only allowed to view web pages. In the File Manager, Matthew has access to everything except under Action, there's no option to delete. Under Jobs, we gave Matthew full access to all of the jobs and categories. Under Email Marketing, Matthew has full access except under Categories. He only sees the categories that we gave him access to. In Forms, Matthew has access to everything except Delete. Under Events, Matthew is again given full access except under Categories. He only sees the 3 we checked off: Meetings, Socials, and Training. And finally, under FAQ, Matthew again only has access to the Human Resources category. You can change Matthew's access at any time by editing the access level for the Human Resources group. So if we log out as Matthew and log back in as the administrator, and go back to the security module, we can now see under Matthew's name how many times he's logged in and when he last logged in. So a couple of key things to remember with security. If you need to have unique access level for an individual single user, you still need to create a group for that user, and it's okay to have a group with only one user. We recommend that you keep access levels as simple as possible or as needed, and the more customized a group is with the specific access levels, the more you'll need to manage them. So think it through. Not giving a group permission to delete, for example, could create extra work on your part. But you can always change your selection, so if a certain restriction became a problem, you could just change it in just a few seconds. Remember that any user assigned to the admin group will have access to all of the administrative levels of the blue interface, and if a user is no longer an employee, delete the user. Now I'd just like to review some strategies for creating strong passwords. Every company and every computer should have a strong random password. And here are some tips. Your password should be 7 or 14 characters long due to the way that encryption works, and for obvious reasons, 14 characters are preferable. Passwords should contain both uppercase and lowercase letters. They should contain numbers. They should contain symbols, such as those I've listed here. And the symbols should be in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th position due to the way in which encryption works. Passwords should not resemble previous passwords, and they should not be your name, your friends or family member's name, or your login. They should not be a dictionary word or a common name. And we recommend that your users change their password upon first login and that you provide them with strong password guidelines. And you can also find password generators on the web, and one example would be www.strongpasswordgenerator.com. On this screen, I've given an alternate strategy for creating a password that is unique but easier to remember. And with this strategy, the idea is to think of a familiar phrase, quote, or sentence that includes a number. And you can include a symbol in the sentence and then just use the first letter of each word as your password. And you can see an example here. And you can see why this password would be a stronger password than just using Rover. That concludes the security module training. For more information on the module or on Acrosoft Freedom, please visit www.acrosoft.com, call 888-965-3330, or email info@acrosoft.com.